We should do a podcast called Serial Killer, but we just smash tons of cereal. Like
That's all we do.
Bowls after bowls.
Welcome to the Gathering Greenhouse, a podcast to help us grow together. I'm Steve.
I'm Andrew.
You
Were a little confused.
I was like, well, all of a sudden I was like, what camera am I looking at? Am I looking at that one right there?
This one.
This one. Oh,
Yeah.
All right, I'll try this again. I'm Andrew. I'm Andrew.
I'm John. I'm John. I'm John.
There you go.
So the youth have been doing a March Madness style game. So explain to us what's going on. We wanna partake in it.
So yeah, three years ago we started this March Madness. We wanted to create our own brackets.
Yeah.
First year we got all the top candies and put them in a tournament style against each other, and Nerd Gummy Clusters won, which I can't argue with.
That is the Gen Z candy of choice.
It is.
You know, and it's good.
Anytime I tell people young that that's one, they're like, as it should. And I'm like, Reese's to me, I still think are the best.
Is that a bad sign for Reese's?
No, because
They're still like 'em.
They're still.
I would say that they're still high on the list for Gen Z.
Yeah.
And as they mature, they will realize the error of their youth, you know, and embrace.
I mean, I will say, I got to give to Nerds, because like Nerds to me, like who goes and buys a box of Nerds and like on
It's just
a
like
on a
eating
road
sugar,
trip?
yeah,
Yeah,
straight.
like Reese, but now they're like, oh, let's reinvent ourselves.
They're,
And
they're great. Like,
they're great
so
candy.
good.
The texture. So yeah,
Crunchy and
that
squishy.
one. The second year, last year we did chips, and I think just about every podcast we were eating chips. I think we were done with chips after the second podcast. But last year, Takis won, which really, I mean, they're good, but still questioning some palates.
Yeah.
And so this year we decided we're gonna do cereals, and we actually made them vote. Like the teens, like made the bracket. So we told them to write down their top 5 in order cereals, and then we got the results and we made a bracket. And so.
All right, should we try some?
Let's do it, man.
Okay, so
this
tell us what's up first, because I got them.
This week was our second round. So our play-in made it through Apple Jacks versus our number 1 seed, Honey Nut Cheerios. Apple Jacks versus Honey Nut Cheerios.
I mean, Honey Nut Cheerios is classic.
And
Can't go wrong with
you
that.
notice that they put some in the shape of hearts now?
Is that because I always hear like Cheerios are like they advertise as heart.
Good for your
Good for
cholesterol.
cholesterol.
I'm lowering my cholesterol. But are they really?
Bad for you for everything else, you know.
But this was the number 1 seed.
Was Honey Nut Cheerios part of
So here's.
that lowering your cholesterol? Because it's like
I think it's just the plain gross ones.
yeah,
No,
'cause how could they
it's
put
on
sugar
this
in it?
box. Honey Nut.
So
Wow.
I don't know a human
Basically a
who
way
says
to make
these
it
aren't
sugar.
good. Like
Honey
Honey
Nut
Nut
Cheerios?
Cheerios are like
I don't
probably.
know. They taste a little fake to me.
I would
when
never put them on my top list, but like I don't know anyone who's like, oh, those are disgusting.
Right.
You know.
Is
I
there
think
real
that's why it
honey
was the number
involved?
1.
The actual honey, or is it just
I'm going to try Honey Nut.
okay?
I don't know.
I like them. I love it.
It's a good cereal. And this is like classic, throw in a bag for kids.
I definitely prefer regular Cheerios.
No.
What?
I just something about it tastes so fake.
The honey?
Sugar.
The
The
sugar?
glaze.
The glaze on it, I just nah.
So
Just-
that went up against Apple Jacks.
Just smell.
So you try that. So
The Apple Jacks have a great cinnamon smell.
it does have a really good smell. So does it matter? Like, is there a different flavor between the green one and the
I haven't had
I don't
Apple
think so.
Jacks in a
orange
long
one?
time.
Let's
They
find
taste
out.
The same.
Find out. Got green.
Green apple. They're the
yeah.
same.
Yeah, they taste the same.
Yep.
I couldn't tell any difference.
Same thing. And so Cheerios ended up being our number 1 seed. Apple Jacks was a play-in.
Okay.
So last week they
picked
beat.
Apple
Wait, we don't
Jacks.
want to say you don't give the results yet.
No, no.
first,
Okay,
'cause We
okay.
want
I
to
already know
make
how
our
this
own.
goes. They make the wrong decision. Apple Jacks won.
My vote is Apple Jacks.
Do you like Apple Jacks better?
I'm going
would
with
you
Apple Jacks.
choose?
I would rather.
personally choose Honey Nut Cheerios.
I would rather eat Apple Jacks than the Honey Nut Cheerios.
So, Apple Jacks are really good, but it's not what I would want like every day for breakfast.
No,
Where I
no,
can eat
of
Honey Nut
course not.
Cheerios every day for
If
breakfast.
in that sense, yeah, I would. If I had to eat it on a regular basis,
Honey Nut Cheerios is that like dependable daily driver.
That's
but
the
the thing
Honda
is like
cereal.
it's the Honda.
can see that.
It is. But John is 100% correct. Our
See?
play-in Apple Jacks one, and I
Upset.
wonder too
I
though
think this is going to be a theme.
if not having milk sometimes
That absolutely plays into
It's
it.
playing into this
I
That's actually
think
really
that
good thought.
the Honey Nut Cheerios taste better with milk.
because
It helps.
depends on how quickly it absorbs the milk. Does it get?
I'm gonna eat
soggy
it
too
quick.
fast?
No, you don't mess around with cereal.
You gotta eat it.
eat
You
it
don't
while
want
it's
it to be
crunchy.
soggy at all.
No.
Now, Captain Crunch, I like to let it sit just
Yeah,
enough.
that was the one
softens
because
a little
it'll
bit.
destroy the inside of your mouth. Like you'll have cuts
Cuts you.
inside your mouth.
There's some cereals you
When
have
you're just
to.
like you can't wait to eat the bowl and you eat it and then you're like I regret.
I had a friend growing up,
Jagged.
and this was before everybody was like gluten free and stuff. But he wasn't allowed to have milk, and he wasn't allowed to have sugar, and he would eat for breakfast plain Cheerios with water.
Ugh,
That was like his go-to breakfast. And
that sounds disgusting. All right.
What would you put in cereal? What do you think would be the next great liquid to use for cereal if there wasn't milk?
chocolate milk.
Cocoa Puffs make chocolate milk.
Yeah. Coca-Cola.
Dude, you just gave me 2 Fruit Loops. What is this about? It's Fruit Loops versus Lucky
Oat
Charms.
milk? I don't know.
Oat milk.
Oh, this one.
have-
I got 2
It's all right.
Lucky Charms here.
Here.
You need to trade. I just
Oh, here, I'll give you this
handed
one.
it out wrong. We didn't get Andre's take. What did you want? Okay.
There we go.
Okay.
He's saying
Okay.
too.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got Fruit Loops versus.
Lucky Charms.
I'm
What
going to
do
be
you try
really biased.
first?
Lucky Charms is one of my favorite cereal, so
Okay.
I'm going to be a
Okay.
little biased.
We're doing Lucky Charms first.
Lucky Charms?
I am. Sorry, I just got too excited. I saw the marshmallows.
Those Lucky Charm marshmallows are the best.
They
things.
are. Here's my problem with Lucky Charms though.
They don't put as much charms in it as they used to.
They don't. And you always want to like have a bite that has a marshmallow in it.
Yes.
But when you get towards the end of the bowl,
There's none.
you've gone through all the marshmallows and now it's just the
The cereal, and it's not super
cereal side.
flavorful.
No.
I got a. I don't
Solution.
know if this
you
was
just
on
get a
your
bag
bracket.
of just the marshmallows and dump it in at the end.
So, one of the best cereals is the Captain Crunch berry
Yes.
one.
Yep.
all berries? Or,
It's like the yellow pieces with the
okay,
berries.
so the berry
Yeah.
one, not all berries.
Becca found the other day, and it's been like Ezra's favorite thing. It's that. Plus, it has the marshmallows from Lucky Charms.
Okay,
in
yeah,
it,
I've seen those.
And it's
That
It's pretty
sounds
good.
good. I have had Lucky Charms that were chocolate with the
How is
marshmallows.
that?
It was good. I
Okay.
actually
I-
preferred that because it was like
It does
like
not
that.
look good to me. I've seen that around.
It's
and
good.
So
That's good.
now
Fruit Loops?
Fruit
Fruit
Loops.
Loops.
I haven't had Fruit Loops in a long time.
Fruit Loops smell is the most artificial fruit
Yeah, it
smell.
is.
Doesn't seem,
100% on that.
it's tasty, and then you're like, but it's
And also, none of these colors actually exist in the real world.
as an
And they're
adult-
all
So I think as
can't
an
find
adult,
that color
I just
anywhere.
don't find so much flavor in these though. I mean, they're
Yeah.
good, but like
This is my
lacking a
first time
little
having
flavor.
this as an adult, and I used to love them. I used to think they were like so fun, but it was just the color.
yeah.
Like, and now I'm just like, that's
The,
kind
the
of gross.
toucan's
Yeah.
kind of cool too.
Let me guess, the Fruit Loops win.
well, you got to say what do you
I'm gonna
want?
go with Lucky Charms.
Lucky Charms are
I'm gonna go
clearly
with
the
Lucky
better.
Charms.
Okay, so actually, this was the first week that high school and middle school separated, and this is the one that they differed on. High school chose Fruit Loops, middle school chose Lucky Charms, but middle school had twice the amount of kids, so we're moving Lucky Charms through because if
Okay.
they were together, it would have been unanimous Lucky Charms by far. So
Okay.
as a whole, Lucky Charms won. High school.
Can I come
picked-
talk to the high schoolers next week?
Yeah, we need to do some more gospel
We
messages
need like
in there.
a
Apparently,
Scared Straight program about cereal.
Is it still cereal if you just eat the marshmallows? Like if you
Yes, because
would that
that
still be
sounds healthier
technical?
than just saying I eat
Is
marshmallows.
it still? is it
eating
technically
cereal.
breakfast if you just eat the
So
marshmallows?
I think we need to stop calling cereal like part of a complete breakfast. That's like the biggest lie ever.
yeah. Well, you know what they need to
It's
do.
a great dessert.
You know what
It
they
is.
need to
That's
do?
what I
You know how
tell my
Captain
kids.
Crunch has the oops all berries?
Yeah.
Lucky Charms oops all
You
marshmallows.
can buy bags of marshmallows.
I know you can,
Yeah,
but like
it's-
you got to buy it like
you have to order it.
I'm just
order
gonna
it
mix
specially.
one all
all the cereals.
together.
Do you ever do that at home if you have
said we
several
used
No,
to
I
cereals?
don't.
I do
I
it a
know when
lot.
I'm not a kind of person who likes to do that. I
I
like
love it.
I like them separate. But
So I like peanut butter Captain Crunch is my favorite. I don't love the Reese's cereals.
Puffs.
Okay. Reese's Puffs are okay, but they're not peanut butter Captain Crunch. So I used to mix peanut butter Captain Crunch with either Cocoa Puffs or like Cocoa Pebbles to get that chocolate peanut butter.
it's
Yeah.
not good mixing them all together. You get like a very
It depends on what.
The Fruit Loops ruined it.
Yeah, the Fruit
Yeah.
Loops. I'm surprised. I tried them. I'm like, that's just not actually good.
If you actually like Fruit Loops, can you help us understand and just leave a comment explaining not just that you like them, but
Why?
What about them?
And are you okay?
And are you older than 5?
Well, high schoolers picked it, but I'm telling you, after I ate the Lucky Charms, I'm like, wow, this has no flavor.
I've got serious questions about this generation.
Yeah, I do too. But
serious concerns.
You're doing your part.
I'm just trying to help them
trying to
find
help 'em.
Jesus.
Preach fire and brimstone as soon as they pick Free Loops.
Yeah. Oh, questioning the kids' salvation.
Yes. So this Sunday you gave the sermon in big church,
In big church, as we call it.
as we call it in the youth
right.
I
world.
can't stop calling it real church.
Real church.
I got the preaching the real
And real.
church.
You actually did a real. You talked to real people this Sunday.
I did. Real,
not just
actual
the one.
People who want to pick Fruity Loops.
Yeah.
Wait, Fruit Loops. I'm saying Fruity Pebbles.
I don't know. Who knows about that?
Well,
that group
that'd
there
be
on
an
Sunday.
interesting test with the grown-ups one time to be like, eat these cereals and tell us what you think.
They would all be like, when we think of cereal, we think of oatmeal.
Where's the Raisin Bran?
Oh, I actually like Raisin
Bran
I
Bran.
do too.
Flakes.
Raisin Bran,
Raisin
actually.
Bran's
What about the bran flakes? Like those little noodly looking tiny slivers. Those look like the absolute.
Oh, I know what you're
gross-
talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't even know
yeah.
what that's called, but
Goat food.
yeah, it looks gross.
So
It basically is goat food.
It's chicken feed.
we so Special K, is marketed really towards women. Like all the branding is very much, but Walmart has a knockoff Special K that they call like Strawberry Fields or something like that.
Yeah.
And in high school, that was my favorite cereal, and then I realized it was Special K, and I felt really weird.
You questioned yourself.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know why I like this so much. Maybe I'm a 40-year-old woman.
I don't think I've ever had Special K before.
What?
Good, because
Come on, man.
it's not marketed.
Isn't
to
it
you.
my all-time favorite cereal though is Frosted Flakes. I love Frosted Flakes.
That's Becca's favorite, but
Very sugary though.
I don't love
It
it.
is.
It's on this very sweet side. Not that
it is.
sugars
I like
aren't
the-
sweet, but
I mean,
Unsweet
what cereal
Chex.
though isn't?
I know.
Did you say unsweetened checks?
I like the unsweet Chex with like berries in it is one of my favorite when I don't want like sugary.
Yeah.
But and then you put a little sugar on top. But
I just love. I'll tell you though, I don't eat cereal for breakfast. I only eat it at night before bed, which is probably worse because you're eating,
milk before you go.
and half of your daily value of sugar right before you go to bed. But
Have you ever had the like a Rice Krispie treats cereal where it's like the Rice Krispies, but they turn it into
cereal.
yeah.
But
Yes,
yeah,
we
that
used to
was
call those.
it's pretty
Is
good.
it
Because
Rice
they
Krispies
make-
a cereal?
Yes, that's Rice Krispies.
So they turned Rice Krispies into
Rice Krispie treats
and then
as a
back into
cereal. So yeah, I mean, but it's not like it's crunchy, so it's not like a Rice Krispie treat, but like they have a take on that, so it kind of
So it's
tastes
kinda
marshmallow.
marshmallowy?
Yeah, marshmallowy.
Okay, no, I thought you were just talking about Rice Krispies.
No, this
No,
is
there
like
isn't a Rice
there's
Krispie
Rice
treat.
Krispie treats cereal.
This is kind of
I don't know
real
if they
trippy.
bring it around,
Starts
every
as
once in a
cereal.
while.
Becomes a Rice Krispie treat. Then they turn it back into
Yeah.
cereal
Well,
as a Rice Krispie
I remember
treat
as a
cereal.
kid,
Like,
literally my
that's
mom
interesting.
sometimes would give us Rice Krispie treats, not treats, so just the Rice Krispie cereal, and she'd always just put a spoonful of sugar on it because
That was
there was
great.
because there was no
That's how we
sugar.
ate it.
No
Yeah.
sugar.
There was no
What?
sugar
You
on
just
it,
sprinkle some sugar on top,
and it was so good. And so,
but they got soggy
but
too fast.
they
That's the-
did. But now, if you
Wait,
got
you
that
put sugar on top of
Rice
the Rice
Krispies.
Krispie treats?
No.
Oh,
Plain Rice
okay.
Krispies.
Plain Rice
no
Krispie
sugar.
I thought
cereal.
she was making Rice Krispie treats and then putting sugar on top of it.
So basically, what you do is you want to.
I mean, it would be good.
Yeah, it would be. I see
what's
what you're
that
saying.
candy they dip in sugar?
I know what
Oh.
you're
It's like
talking about.
it comes with a bag of sugar, and they just dip a stick in it.
yep,
and then
yep.
dip sugar.
Dipsticks.
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 And then like
Yeah.
the
Stupidest thing ever.
they also do that with like remember the baby bottle pops.
Yep.
Yeah.
But you're like
Yeah, you just dip it. And
dip it in that big
Here's
thing
a
of
sugar candy coated in sugar.
Breakfast is one of the
Half
weirdest
cavities.
things because if you ever
just
had
can't
cake, if you ever had cake or
Yeah.
cookies, your mom's like, you're not going to eat that. But here's a pancake with syrup instead.
I bet
or
cake
here's
is healthier.
Huh?
I bet cake is healthier than cereal.
than cereal. I'd almost agree. And pancakes. I mean, it's a fried cake
Don't-
with sugar.
Don't you talk about pancakes.
Listen. I'll eat them every morning.
Pancakes are perfectly healthy.
Waffles are better, but
That's a good debate right
it
there.
is. It
I don't
holds.
think there's a debate there.
It holds the
you don't
butter
think so?
and the syrup for you.
I think most people would pick. It just depends on the mood I'm in.
Yeah. And it depends on the pancake or waffle too. I mean,
That's true. You can have like we're talking an Eggo or we're talking a nice Belgian waffle.
Yeah.
you
nice
know.
Belgian waffle. And then like my pancake of choice, I really like the thin with the crispy edges, like those griddle cakes.
Griddles, yeah.
The griddle cakes.
Well, we better get into
Golly, I am
sir,
hungry.
we
gotta
keep
stop
coming
doing
back
this.
around to the
We gotta
cereal
stop
and the
doing this
food.
before lunch. All right.
Okay.
Anyway,
So,
the sermon was great. Let's get back to food. Anyway.
Okay, back to food now. No, so you talked about Joseph
Yes.
on Sunday. So, a question for you here. Joseph did the right thing even when no one was watching. So, in our world of, screen time and secrets, how can we build the same kind of character that Joseph did even with temptation?
Yeah. So that's like one of the biggest things, like integrity yesterday, talking about how Joseph is a man of integrity. Integrity means doing the right thing when no one's watching.
Right.
And I think that's a really difficult thing for us to understand even now, because I think it's even harder because, like you said, you have phones.
Yeah.
And all the things is like you can go, like you can message anyone in the world, and
You can have access to any temptation in the world
any
on your phone.
temptation in the world. And so, like, obviously, as a youth pastor, I talk and deal with this a lot as a big temptations for kids of like, maybe just don't take your phone in your room, And so, like, that was my big thing yesterday. When you're talking about fighting temptation, is like, if you know you're going to be tempted to do something, the best way to fight it is don't put yourself in a place in the beginning to be tempted.
Yeah.
So don't take your phone in your room. Don't go to that person's house.
I'm bringing us back to food real quick, but I watched I saw a video, and the guy said it's easier to say no to the food that's tempting at the grocery store than when it's in your pantry. So, because you have to say no one
don't bring it
time
home.
to not bring it home, to not be in that place where you're, versus having to say no all the time when it's in your house. And it's kind of that same principle. It's easier to just not put yourself in that position than it is to put yourself in that position and then constantly have to resist
Say
your
no
temptation.
multiple times.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's a very good take on it, John.
Yeah.
Good job.
So I kind of alluded to yesterday, like Joseph could have easily justified what he did based on what was going on in his life. And it was, the passage starts with, it was just him and her in the house. Everyone else was gone. So it would have been super easy from like, you know what, my life's going pretty bad. This seems like fun.
Yeah.
But instead, he realized the bigger picture of it. So.
Okay. All right. So in the story of Joseph, God used false accusation for something good in the long run for Joseph. So could you think of any other stories in the Bible that, led to the same outcome?
False. Well, Jesus, like that's what I used yesterday was Jesus, like Jesus being falsely accused. And even like, it's funny because when you read that story, I didn't realize before, like the parallels there that, I never even questioned that Potiphar doubted it possibly until you realized his punishment didn't fit the crime.
Right.
But then later in the series, you'll see something else that happened that maybe made Potiphar doubt Joseph's guilt. And so with Jesus, there was doubt. And then when you don't see Joseph fighting and Jesus wasn't fighting it either, and then they had to suffer something. And obviously right now we don't know what the big thing for Joseph is. I mean, if you know the story, you know exactly what God's preparing him for. But there's a lot of stories where people falsely accuse of things. You look at the Church of Acts, all the stuff like Paul suffering, and then to do great things. So, I mean, that's the biggest thing, is to understand that a lot of times we may not be in the place we want to be. He was in prison. He didn't want to be in prison. But sometimes you got to step back and realize maybe God's using this to prepare me for something else. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness running from something. And so then God said, well, I need you to go, and you're going to spend another 40 years in the wilderness running to something.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, that's the hardest part, is when you feel like there's been an injustice done to you, and, it's easy to complain about it or feel sorry for yourself. So that leads perfectly into the next question here, which is about how to deal with our faith in unfair times here, which is, so Joseph trusted God and stuck with him, even when something like extremely unfair happened to him. Like, we'd all say, wow, that was unfair. Like, can this guy catch a break? Like, he just keeps, things just keep getting thrown at him when it's not his fault. But how can we keep our faith strong when it comes to trusting God and allowing God to work in our lives, even when we feel like something unfair happened?
Yeah. I mean, we live in a world right now where there's a lot of deconstruction going on. So all we hear a lot on YouTube and different things is church hurt and people taking the littlest things to say, well, this happened to me, so I'm walking away from faith, because if that's what the faith is all about, and I'm like, man, like, if that was like Joseph, if that was Paul, if that was Job and all these people, like, they would have quit immediately. Like Joseph could have quit immediately. So for when when we're suffering, we're never told as Christians we're not going to suffer. We're never told there's not going to be injustice. In fact, it's the opposite, right? Like, if you follow me, you're going to bear your cross.
Yeah.
And back then that was today in this world, like, if you talk to the congregation, you're like, bear your electric chair or your lethal injection needle. That's basically what that signified to them. And like this, like the gravity of the situation. And so, when you come to Jesus, you understand those things, but then you understand also that there's nothing that's going to come up against you that, Jesus can't be there with you through. That, he said, I've overcome the world, that you can have peace and all these things. So
how do you deal with that? So not just looking at the situation and saying, man, this bad stuff happened, but to also say, man, like, why me, God? Why do you allow these things to happen to me? Like, almost like the saying, well, I've only done right in your eyes. I've been trying to follow you. I've been trying to stay on the right path, but these bad things keep happening. Like, how do you deal with that?
So I think you have to first ask the question. So often people say, oh, why is all this bad stuff happening to me? As if we aren't a party in that.
Yeah.
So very often I've seen people, they immediately go to that, oh, God's just against me. I just everything in life is stacking against me. It's like, but if you actually took a step back and looked at how you were living, how you were behaving, your decisions often carry negative consequences when they're not in alignment with what God's called you to do. And so my first question is often, is there anything you have done in your life that this is just a natural consequence of that? God, why do I have to be a drug addict? Well, you took the drug, right? Like there's often these things, that it's a natural consequence of the decision we made. So we think we often have to be careful blaming God for things that are actually our fault, right?
Yeah.
But often the second part of that is stop and also acknowledge all the things that you were like deserved that you didn't experience.
Yeah.
How many times do we experience God's grace in a way that we were protected from something or something bad didn't, and we're so quick to forget those things and just remember the hard things we experienced. And then the third piece of this is just, the answer sometimes is, I don't know why God is allowing me to go through this, but I trust that through this, God is either building something up in me. He is teaching me something. He is stretching me and growing me so that I can either better serve him in some way after this trial, or that through this trial, I will grow closer to him.
Right.
And so you kind of have to end up in that place to, James 1, count it joy when you go through trials of various kinds. And it's almost like this, you should expect it. This is going to happen. It's not if you go through trials, it's when you go through trials.
Yep.
And so just expect that to happen, but then trust and have joy in it, even that God is using that for some good.
And I think I love that, because I was going to mention that James 1, the testing of your faith.
Yeah.
And there's also something before that as well, because like I love the parable of the builders, where Jesus is talking about like those who hear my word are like the ones who build their house on a firm foundation, who act on it.
Yeah.
Those who hear my word and don't do it, it's like this, because he says when the storm comes.
Yeah.
And I always say, like, Jesus doesn't say if the storm comes you'll be ready. He's like, no, hey, the storm is going to come. And so I think this is a twofold thing. Like, are you daily listening and applying God's word? Because it's a two-step thing. And then when that storm does come, know that it is coming, but you're planted already in my word, and I'm testing this testing your faith. So then that way I can put you in some situations to do great things for me.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So there's a side of it of our choices have repercussions, right? And then there's the other side of it that it's just the life that we were given, right? And I think in that sense, it's the trust God through even when there's uncertainty in life. And staying true to God's word is the best path, even if it feels like it's the harder path to be on. I think that's what the principles you're talking about.
Yes.
Of it's not if, it's when.
Yeah, and especially like for Joseph's sake, because it's like, did he do wrong? No, I mean, like that's the thing. Like maybe, I mean, he's a person, but it's like,
But what happened to him wasn't like he wasn't sold by his brothers because Joseph deserved that, right? It wasn't something he did. It was other people's choices that happened to him. And, so even with that, he still chose to be, have integrity, to be faithful through all that.
But do you think there's wisdom in telling your brothers they're all going to be bowing down to you? I think there's a little bit of wisdom in there. You probably, may need to read the room a little bit.
You're wearing
I tell
constant
my brothers that all the
reminder.
time,
How's that go over? Really well?
Well,
They
I'm better
bow
than
down.
them, so
They
I don't
bow
really
down
care
to
how
you.
they feel about it.
Yeah.
I'm
You don't worry about what the lesser
If
people
John
think.
just disappears,
those people.
okay.
It probably doesn't help that he's also
Great.
wearing like a loud, constant reminder of "I'm the favorite."
Yeah.
Yes.
We should imagine someone just walking around like a gold medal that just says "I'm the best."
We talked about this last week, but who would be the staff member who would receive the coat of many colors from David?
Becca.
I was gonna say Becca.
Becca.
We didn't actually say who it was. Now you just named it.
No, I just named it. Well, you named it too. So
Yeah. All right.
She's gonna be so mad.
Last question I have here is being lied about can deeply hurt, both emotionally, spiritually, all of that, right? But how can we process that pain in a way that honors God, especially when we don't immediately see the justice take place?
yeah, I think that's the big thing,
Isn't
too.
it? Like, that's the $1 million question in this. I mean, that's really tough.
Well, especially because like once like Joseph gained power, he had the possibility of like getting everyone back.
Well, wouldn't that have been a better story in the end? I mean, like that,
Like-
we could have gone to a movie in that point.
Like you guys don't get fed, go home, you're gonna starve to
Guess
death.
what?
Off with the
I'm your
heads.
brother.
Okay, so I gotta tell this story because it's so my church growing up, we did a play based on Joseph,
Yeah.
and long story short, my
Had a
brother and I
alternate ending.
Yes, my brother and I both felt we got shafted for a role,
Yeah.
and so we were real upset about it. But we both got significant roles in the play, and he was the guard, and I was playing Joseph too. And my job, so one of the scenes we were both in was them coming to Joseph, and they don't
Yeah.
realize it's Joseph. He was the guard, and so I was going to say, "Kill him." And he was going to pull a sword
So,
and start hacking him
Yeah.
in the middle of the play and ruin the whole thing.
It's
It's
like
it's like Sarah and I did a skit about It's a Wonderful Life and had an alternate ending that was never aired, and they all took turns beating up Mr. Potter, and he like didn't even actually need to be in a wheelchair. He like got up out of his wheelchair.
That's awful.
that's terrible.
Yeah.
No,
But sorry, get back to more
sorry.
serious. We never really answered that question.
No, we
there.
didn't because that's the difficult thing is and it's just again that mindset, and that's the whole thing that I was trying to get across yesterday too. Like Joseph already knew his boundaries. He knew the boundaries God gave him. He knew God's plan for him, and because he was having dreams, right? I mean, because like he was getting these messages from God, so he saw those things. So it's got to be a mindset before, because man, when someone does you wrong, especially like lies about you, I mean, like when you think of real life examples, like someone who lied to your boss to get the promotion over, you're like, oh, John, he actually doesn't do a whole lot. So
I didn't think you knew about that.
he just kind of just doesn't. And so I deserve this over him. Whereas that would be a lie, like John does a whole lot of stuff. And
Bad things.
But what would be like your immediate response? Like your internal response would be like, I
got to go after that guy, and
Yeah.
I've got to, prove myself, and
yeah, and tear him down
Right.
instead. And so again, I think it's something as Christians we got to realize we just got to be ready for those things, and in the moment realize, like the word says, like don't take vengeance. God knows the truth. He is going to right all the wrongs. Just be patient. But that's very difficult, especially if you're Joseph, because it took a very long time for those things to be.
And I think it comes back to, what is your faith in?
Yeah.
Is your faith in that, like, I can endure this trial because I know that God's going to get them back for me, or I can endure this person saying this thing about me because I don't know when, but I know God's going to, have my back in this way. Your faith is actually in your desired outcome still, versus stepping back and saying, hey, even if this doesn't get resolved the way I want, even if this person for the rest of their life and the rest of my life continue to say these bad things about me, I am rooted and secure in who Christ is and in what he has done for me. My faith is in him, and because of that, I can endure whatever is thrown at me.
Yeah.
That is a much better place to put yourself in, because your faith is actually in the person
Yep.
of Christ and rather than in the outcome of
Yep.
of that
And
situation.
I think there's something to say if you are a person of integrity and you're not doing wrong things, you know, it's easy to just be content with, hey,
That people can write it off.
you know, you say those things, but I know it's true. It's not true. And I know God knows it's not true. So, but like if you are doing wrong things, then it gets a little bit, it's like, oh man, there's that conviction of.
So, this isn't a moral integrity example, but like last year, somebody came to me and told me that Steve said that I would do something that I didn't want to do, but I knew there was no way Steve would ever like do that because that's not Steve. Steve's integrity, essentially, his my experience with him was such a solid, evidence to me that when the person said that to me, I was like, no, there's no way that's true, right? Yeah. And that's kind of how integrity works. When someone comes, if you choose to be honest and you live honestly, when someone says, hey, that person's doing something dishonest, well, they're probably not going to believe that person.
Right.
That's
right.
I'm going to have a lot of doubts.
Because if you are trustworthy and have those things and have proven yourself to people,
right,
it's harder for them to believe. Which is like, I think why Potiphar had a little bit of a doubt.
Yeah.
Because you had to trust this guy an awful lot to put him in charge of everything except for, the wife.
Right.
As Joseph said, he's giving me everything except for you.
Every time I read that story or hear it, I'm just like, this is like, Real Housewives of Egypt or something like that. Like that's the vibe I get from Potiphar's wife.
Yes.
Well, I think that's a good spot to end here. So thanks for joining us on the Gathering Greenhouse. Until we see you again, keep it real, keep it rooted, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.